Okay, so now before we had a little bit of a big issue trying to get that Cloud9 VM up and running. It turns out that the initial one just never came through. What can you say? I have no idea. What should have happened and what you should have seen is it should have gone through the process, cloned everything off of my GitHub repository, and this is the first site you see when it successfully starts up and creates the VM. So embedded in this, and this is why I thought it valuable to show you this, is the instructions you need to set it up. So this is a Ruby application. This is a Sinatra application. And as I said, just because everything is kind of a joke and kind of cutesy, we organize our Ruby software in packages called gems. So all the stuff we have, all the dependencies, everything we need to build this web application in Sinatra is specified in this gem file. The reason I show you this is because when you take a quick look through here, we've got a few things. This is database stuff, builder stuff, some more database stuff. It's really just database and Sinatra itself. The reason I show you this, though, is because I want to explain why we install this program called the bundler. So now, just because of the way Sinatra is, or sorry, not Sinatra, the way Cloud9 is, Ruby comes always just as part of the base operating system setup. What it doesn't come with, though, is this bundler application. And what bundler does, once you install it, here I am just copying and pasting. What this does is it enables you to download all the stuff in this source and load it onto your local machine, or I guess your development machine today. So I can, again, just copy and paste. I'm not sure why they call it, install bundler, and then the actual program is called bundle. So just something to be mindful of. If I paste that in there and hit enter, it goes to this rubygems.org, which is kind of, the de facto standard for places to host gem files. You don't necessarily have to host your gems there if you write one. It's just that's where most of them go. So, and you can always just kind of take a peek if you're curious as to what's happening there. Notice if you paid very close attention. I mean, I didn't expect you to look at this, but some of these package names are in here, right? This is all the software that we downloaded and is now ready for us to use. You see Pry there. You see Puma, Sinatra, Active Record, and then all of the dependencies that these gems also depend upon. So we've only got, I'm going to guess, 10 packages in total. But if you look through this list, maybe not many more than 10, but there are certainly some that weren't specified in that gem file. And that's simply because some of these gems have other dependencies. They're all bringing this stuff in, and if you want to run them, then you got to download that software as well. So everything's installed, and I can kind of move on here in my README file. It lets me scroll. Yep, come on. What's going on here? Why is Cloud9 acting so funny today? There we go. I'll just use the keyboard. The next thing I need to do is okay. Now this is kind of where we have something called DevOps stands in. Ruby and Sinatra are not. This is a software framework, but we still have to work within the confines and within the protocols of the World Wide Web. So you guys previously were familiar with Apache. That's what we used to run our simple index pages. When we start actually, using the system resources beyond simply serving files, and doing database calls and all this kind of stuff, we need an interface between the application you write and the web server itself. So I like to use one called Nginx, and when I'm using Ruby or Sinatra or Rails, I use the interface I use is called Fusion Passenger. I'm not sure which one we're setting up here. The problem is, this is, in purely practical terms, if I go up to here and I say run, well, no, Apache's not going to work. It's not going to work on your Instagram. It's not going to work on this. This is the exact same setup with just, some of the stuff stripped off of it. I need a special server configuration with this, this interface. I think that's the Puma interface there. to actually make this web application accessible using web protocols through a web server. So I need something that's Sinatra. That's what happens here. And this is just something that one of the Lighthouse founders put together. It looks long and kind of scary, but it's really not. It's just saying make a new directory. Let's even take a peek. Say LL Cloud9. Show me what's in the Cloud9 directory. That's what I just told Linux to do. And it says, well, you've got metadata. Got no runners. There's no runners. We could try that. We'll say Cloud9 runners. Nothing. Make me a runners directory. That's what it's saying. And then from there, grab everything at this address. And this is like that Sinatra configuration. So it is. It's long and it's scary, but it's really not complex. It just looks really ugly. Take that, copy it into this runners. I don't have a runners directory. I don't have a file named Sinatra run. And I can verify that just by, showing the directory listing. Nothing there. I copy and paste this whole command. Don't even think twice about it. Just do it. It's not a big deal. There it goes. Now when I look inside my Cloud9 directory, there's the runners right at the bottom. And there's that thing called Sinatra run. There's nothing magical about it. It's just configuration. Let me show you what's inside. Cat means, I think it actually means catalog. That's just how you dump the contents of a file to screen. So this is some Linux stuff, right? You might recognize this. It almost looks like a hash, right? This is JSON, just a JavaScript object notation. That's what it stands for. So by doing this, though, previously, before I went up there, I didn't have any Sinatra options. This changes all that. In that run configuration, I suppose we could put whatever we wanted in there. Right down here at the bottom now, I guess you're going to have to take my word for that. That wasn't there before. I didn't actually explicitly mention this, but that's what I did. So I start up Sinatra, and it does all this magic. I think is, what is it, Shotgun and Puma. I think Puma is the interface and Shotgun is the actual web server. Lots of different options, right, for web servers, tons of them. If I look at it now, this is my web application on the World Wide Web. It's just, simple hello world stuff. So I got to get my bureau notes. You can't see, but that I pinned on. First thing I want to do is kind of show you, because having gone through this and having taken the work just by this delay in the demonstration, you've probably seen a lot of this stuff. So this actually might work out better, because if you've wondered it before but you've seen it, you wondered what you were doing, hopefully this will explain that, shed some light on all this mystery. So this is running. When I go to this Cloud9 address, it's interfacing with this Puma Shotgun thing, and then Puma sends it on to the Sinatra application itself, and it says, give me whatever matches here, right? We don't have to explicitly put that slash there in this case, but that is what it's looking for. Give me the root directory or the root route in this application. It comes and executes this code here. Right now, there's hardly anything there, right? I could even take this out. This is my view. I'm just going to comment it. That's what the hashtag does. And, maybe just return a plain text or some text. Or, let's get some data. You've already done this. This shouldn't be such a big leap. But we define some cities. So I'm going to define a city here. It's one you're already familiar with. Here's Tokyo. If I execute this, what do you think is going to happen? Should crash, I think. So I'm not really returning it anything. It's not going to know how to render it. So it's either going to be blank. Oh, yes, there's a whole bunch of errors. I have no idea what this is. This is nonsense. If I change this, and this is kind of what you saw, doing your exercise from last day. If I just do a string representation, then the browser knows what to do with it. And this here, this placement is significant, because remember, when you return from a method, it's always the last line that provides the return value, and something is always returned, even if it's nil. Right? Nil is nothing. It's not like 0. It's not 1. It's just nil. Let's try that again. So this time it should do something a little bit different. There it is. Okay. So it's just, still ugly. But this is the data that we're going to use to render our view. And again, just to recall, this is what we're going to do. That doesn't look good at all. I'm not sure what's going on there. But we got to transfer all of this into a template. So maybe the fastest thing to do, I suppose, would be just to come over to our template. What is this? Hang on. Well, I'm not waiting. I've got an Oh, there it is. It'll beat me. I got to take all this basic structure and I got to find home for my web application. So right now I'm going to change this back. I'm going to leave this Tokyo stuff here. This isn't going to hurt anything we're going to need later. But I'm going to render this view. So I should see the initial thing that said simply "Hello World." So here's the ongoing. This is the tour. The "Hello World" is coming from that ERB file contained in the views. So remember from the slides, hopefully. I got to just get rid of this thing. Did I just close it? Son of a gun. What is going on? Somehow I closed that. Fingers crossed. Don't want this. We'll keep that. Okay, this wasn't too long. This index ERB is found in views directory by default. This is a Sinatra convention. Like, why mess with it, right? You might have a good value, but index here points to this index right here. And when I open this, what do you think I'm going to see? HTML tag, body tag, all that kind of stuff.
Same page.
No, it's just this stuff. Just this one line of code, right? I'm not defining an entire web page. I'm just defining the content I want people to see. So I can change this. Say, howdy Dan. Just like that. Maybe I'll make it a little smaller, just to give it some distinction. Come back to here. Whoops. Refresh. That's just the stuff I see, but it's not like this is a naked page, right? We only defined all this stuff, and this isn't browser being friendly. I look at inside the actual code that's being delivered to the browser, I see all the goodies that I expect to be there. The HTML outer tag, the doc type, the head, body, still very simple, but that's got to be coming from somewhere, right? Even if the browser was adding it, it certainly wouldn't add this Cloud9 Sinatra setup. So this has to be coming somewhere. This layout helps us keep our views dry. We don't want to repeat ourselves. We don't want to put the head. We don't want to put the HTML. We don't want to put certain navigational elements. Remember from the slides? This is all that. So we're going to call this "Have You Been?" Keep with the theme what we were working on with from last week. And if you remember from the slides, I mentioned this yield. Whoops, come on. Sorry. This yield, this is the placeholder. This is taking this content, and when I say actions.rb, please render me this index view, it's taking the layout, is grabbing all this stuff here, and in the final product, it's gluing it right where that yield is, right? So I could put something at the top here. Maybe say, let's just say this. Let's say nav. How about that? We'll say have you been? And you're going to see where this becomes interesting in just a moment. I refresh it. A couple of changes I made. So C9 Sinatra, now it's asking the question, have you been to this place? And then right up here, it's too small for this because it's not responsive. It's just, that's my incipient navigation bar, right? Now, if I were to go and create another view, you would see this everywhere because all that inner content is being glued where that yield is, and this have you been is entirely apart from that. So this is what we're working with. We're going to have to massage it a little bit. We're going to use it more as a guideline or inspiration than the code itself. But, just to keep it simple, I'm going to grab all of these articles like this. Oops, actually, I can't do it that way. Or can I? Highlight all the way down here. I need the body. Come back to here. I could post it there, but I don't need to. I've got this index. This is what's going to show all these questions. I'm going to get rid of, well, I'll leave that there for now. Just so, we take really slow changes. Whoops. I totally didn't mean to copy the whole thing. Not sure how that happened. And take the time to line the stuff up. It gets unwieldy when you just kind of, I'll do it later. No, do it right away. Make sure it looks good. Line everything up. All right, that looks pretty good. So I come back to here, here, and my page is going to change dramatically, right? It's going to have all of that old content. Of course, it's not styled, but all that stuff I just copied and pasted from our HTML demo. You see all the elements. You see the name, you see the 2 buttons, but nothing looks quite right. We also still have this have you been. We can make a little bit better use of that. Remember, we defined it right up here. So this is from our original page that we're using for guidance and inspiration. This properly belongs in the layout, right where I put this one. That was kind of my placeholder, so I'm going to replace it with something a little bit more sophisticated. And if you look at this, once we have it all styled, it's just going to be that black background with white text. So let's save. I'm going to have 2 of these. We'll fix that in just a moment. Doesn't even look that much different, right? No styles yet. Nothing happening quite yet. Let's clean it up and then we'll apply the styles. So don't need this. That's kind of our home page. If we are on a different page, maybe we'll make it so that we can click on that top navigation bar and take us back to the landing page. And then this one over here, we got to get rid of some of these. We don't need this hello world stuff. Line up that article a little better. Now we just have the content. Always go slow. Check your console every once in a while. You don't have to worry about this. This is a security thing. It's just saying that these images weren't served up over HTTPS, just regular old HTTP. I need to get the styles. Back here, we defined all of them in this style.css. This is the demo from last day. This is what is producing the good one. I need to get all this stuff from style.css and have it live over here in my web application. I think you guys probably could guess if I asked you, so I'm not going to, where it goes. This is a static asset. It goes into the public folder. I don't currently have a public folder, so it's as simple as making a new one. This is a very common convention in web development. Probably the most common, I'd say. And inside of this is where we might keep our static assets like images. Maybe we have something for the header rather than just downloading them across the network. And we might keep our JavaScript in there. This is something that gets loaded up once, sent to the client, and you don't necessarily need to ask for it again, right? If it's already living on the phone or maybe on the desktop machine. And we also put our styles in here. So you might see a directory structure with public with a whole bunch of different stuff in it. We just need a style sheet. This should all be sort of reviewed from what you've seen before. Style sheets, whatever you want, doesn't matter, just as long as you know where to find it. Give it a sensible name, obviously. Inside of that, that's where my file is going to live. Now, the other one I called styles.css. Sometimes my preferences change. Sometimes I'm doing app development. I call it app.css, just so telling me that this styles the user interface in my web application. Doesn't matter. Pick something that's sensible to you. Oh, hey, why didn't it take my name? Try that again. app.css. Maybe it didn't like that. Maybe I want it to be the other one. So this is where all of this CSS over here, styles, I'm going to grab all this stuff and I'm going to copy it over. Because I don't want to repeat all that work, right? I've already done it. Never want to think about it again. Here we go. So now that we have these styles, it's still not going to work though, right? We've got to link it. But let's make sure that nothing funny is happening. Yeah, still good. You know, we're seeing this looks like the London Eye or something. There's Tokyo and there's Mexico City. Then we need to tell our style sheet, just like we did the other day. Right up here, so this is our ordinary web page. We use this link tag to say, yes, there are style expectations that accompany this document. Please request them from the server and deliver them to me along with this web page, this structured HTML data. So I'm going to copy that. And if you're a student, you probably already know, I got to stick it here in the layout. Because every time I request a new page that uses this layout, and for your purposes and for these demo purposes, we're always going to be using the same one, right? You might, in some other cases, have an administrative user layout, or you might have just a client user layout, right? There's reasons why you might want to have different ones. We're just going to use the same one. So I grabbed that. It's not quite right, though. And this is where, a little bit of debugging, it's good to kind of see it. I got to tell it where this file is. I don't have a style.css file. So let's see what happens when I try to load it. Well, it won't break, but it's not going to really do much of anything. Really, the only thing that happened in addition to what we were seeing is it saying, well, I asked for styles.css, but it wasn't in the location you specified. This is where it kind of gets tricky. And I even saw this earlier helping another student. You might think, if you have sort of an idea of how a directory path works, you might look at this and say, well, okay, I'm in the layout.erb file. I'm here. I need to get down here. So I might have to go up a directory to app. So I would say like this, ... take me up a directory. Okay, still not there. Now I'm in app. I've got to get to public. Actually, I guess that's pretty good. So I'm in the same directory as public. Let me close this so you see what I'm talking about. What I'm trying to say is that these are kind of a brother-sister relationship rather than a nested relationship. These ones sit side by side. Public and app, they're like siblings. If you're thinking in terms of trees, which I am right now. Somehow I got to get into here. So I might say go into public. And then go into style sheets. And, well, no, I don't want styles.css because I don't have a file called that. I want app.css. Right? This is actually a really reasonable expectation. If you have any knowledge of this stuff, this is probably the first thing you're going to try. Still not going to work, though. Watch what happens. Still can't find it. Doesn't know public, doesn't know style sheet. Kept you in suspense long enough. This is a Sinatra convention. If you put it in public, you don't even need to specify. So they're trying to make your life easier, but if you might trip yourself up if you do have some of this knowledge already. It actually just needs to be this. It's assuming that since you're looking for a static asset, it's always going to be in the public folder. So this is all part of that ERB stuff. Right? This is what's deciding where to look. Before I had to be explicit. Maybe a little less explicit this time. Hopefully this is going to work. Let's see. Oh, there it goes. Wonderful. All the styles come down the pipe. They get applied. Still looks pretty good on the cell phone. Everything's kind of coming up. Still a static web page, though. Right now, there's nothing that's going to allow us to ever change this. This is hard-coded, right? If I'm looking at the index.erb, I've got a bunch of stuff here that I entered manually, and it's not going to change until I enter it manually again. So this is where these instance variables and where these kind of things become useful. Because I can sit here in actions, just waiting for users to request information, And when the time comes, I can find that information and pass it on to the index, which then renders uh, whatever sets of images, right? Because we were talking about one city, we could be talking about a million cities. It doesn't matter. We have no idea how many there are. We just need to be able to render them when the time comes to render them. So I've already got Tokyo up and running. Um, I'm gonna follow the exercises you were doing from last Wednesday. I'm gonna put this in an array because this is conceptually very similar to how you're going to work with databases. Different data structures to be sure, but on the surface, it actually looks pretty close to identical. Pretty close. So let's say I assign this instance variables, or this instant variable. I've only got one city so far, but this is information I want to have access to in my index.erb. And just to prove that it's actually working, let's show you a little trick. You might not know it. If you want to comment HTML code, you just don't want the browser to look at or to render it, use that angle bracket and then the exclamation point and the two dashes. That opens your comment, right? Anything between this and the close, like that, so another dash, dash, and then a right angle bracket, or I guess that would be a greater than sign. Anything between there is just simply not going to be rendered. So now I come back to here, I refresh my page, and there you go. Have you been? It's not showing me anything. It's showing me the nav bar, that thing that we put on every single page. But all this stuff that was previously there is being ignored on purpose. All that to show you that this variable, because we put that @ symbol in front of it, is now accessible to index. Let's try it out. Very simple demonstration. Let's say I put it in a header. We'll say H2. Well, actually, you know what? Let's recycle this guy right here. We already know it's Tokyo, so we'll say use those special alligator tags. This is one that we want to print to screen, so we use the angle %=, and I can just call it by name. I can say, okay, cities, give me the very first index, right? Because this is an array, and give me whatever name is contained in that index. What's the name of the city I'm looking at? Oh, and I need a closing tag as well. Can't forget that. Otherwise, I get some really weird syntax errors. So, nothing fancy. Just drawing data passed from the controller action. So I press refresh. I should see Tokyo. Where's Tokyo? Come on. Nothing? What happened? Oh, did I not? What am I missing? Any cities? Okay, some debugging. Oh, just as I was debugging. Do you guys see it? What is it? I'm missing something somewhere. Anybody spot it? Syntax. HTML syntax. This is missing one of these. There's Cloud9 trying to be simple. Let's take that out. There. See? Simple mistake. It happens all the time. You have to know where to, start looking. And when you can't find it, you got to start, poking around and leaving yourself messages, seeing how far your program actually executes. There we go. Finally, Tokyo. Wonderful. Okay. So now hopefully you're kind of starting to see, where this becomes really valuable. Because now I don't, just with a few simple strokes of the pen, so to speak, I've managed to draw this data out, and I've got structured data that I can now display to the screen. So a lot of the stuff and a lot of the hard work I've done here already can simply be recycled. So I'm going to take the article, nest it there, I'll close it off, just because I kind of want to, if it puts a buffer around it. It should, because we have CSS. See, all of a sudden it's starting to come together, starting to piece together. Just for comparison, this is what we're looking at. So let's build it a little bit further. We have our section. Now this will give us the results we want, right? But it's not every city's Tokyo. Not every city is going to have the same picture. Let's grab this guy and replace it with an alligator tag. This is, again, that special alligator tag that displays something to the screen. So I'm going to grab this guy. I don't want name, but I just want something to grab onto here. I want, what did I call it? I called it image. I want this value that's been assigned to this key, the image value. And we still got this weird thing here. This is not necessarily right? It could be any city. We change this, grab this, and I'm going to call this same method here to make this thing, not method, I guess. I'm going to use the same technique to draw that data out. Does anyone know what the alt does? Can anyone tell me? Yeah, exactly. And it's also good because if like the image doesn't download for some reason, you can leave a description of what the image was supposed to be. And it's also very good for accessibility and screen readers and all this kind of stuff, just to make people with certain disabilities, it's easier for them to search or to have the content read to them if they're blind. So let's grab that, refresh again, starting to build it up a little bit. Okay, there's my picture. Let's cut to the chase here, grab the rest. Here's the footer of my document. Like this, and since we worked so hard on those sides, everything should just fall into place. Since we did all that the other day. Grab that, refresh. Okay, so looking good. Now we still have like 2 other cities though. So I'm going to grab that information from here just to save some time and some copying and pasting. There it is. London and Mexico City. I'll define a couple down. Okay. Exact same stuff, right? Same images. I've initialized all these yeses and nos to 0. It's not super important right now because we're not going to actually do any of those kind of tests. And maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to put this in the instance variable from which I can draw this information and render it to the screen. So I'll have London, and I will have Mexico. There we are, Mexico City. Refresh. Still not wired up to do this, right? I've given it a structure that contains all the information, but I have not provided a way to look inside of this structure each item at a time, one item at a time. To do that, I use the each loop, an iterator, right? It simply means give me an array, give me this group of objects all arranged in a linear fashion, and I will call each and I'll say, look at the first one, execute some code. Move on to the next one, execute some code. Move on to the next one, execute some code. So no matter how long this is, it might be 1 element long or it could be 1,000,000 elements long. It will keep going until it has looked at every single one of those elements. Unless, of course, you tell it to stop, right? You can do that. That is an option. But the intention is to iterate, to look at each one. Right now, this is still, still a pretty static page. We don't need this stuff anymore. It's all nice straight-in hash or hash objects. But it's still basically hardwired. We can only ever look inside. We're only ever going to look at the very first city in the index, right? So we've got to make this a little bit more robust. And we got to do exactly what I described. Look at every single item inside of this array. You know what? I'm going to take off Mexico City just to work with 2 for the moment. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take these ones off as well. I just want to show you that this is going to work the same way. Go back to my index. I say each, and I have to use these alligator tags. Remember, embedded Ruby. The alligator tags allow me to do this embedding. I want to look and see, is this the absence of the equal sign? I'm not putting anything out to screen. I'm just performing some operation. Cities.each. Each is a method. Every iterable object, this is why it's useful to us when I talk about databases. Say this is very similar because a database is also going to return often will return an iterable object that I can call each upon. So for every element in cities, to do this code and pass that city I'm currently looking at into this parameter. Just like the if and the else and def and all that kind of stuff. And each block also must have an end statement. You have to tell it when to stop iterating and stop. You gotta provide bounds for the code that each is executing. Again, I like to keep on top my indentation like that. Here we go. Not too bad. Still not right. This will actually work, but it's not giving us the results that we want. Let's just show you. All right, it's still only doing Tokyo. Still hardwired. This is all wrong. We got to change this because we're not talking about the city's array. We're handing that responsibility over to the each method. During the life cycle of this each, on every iteration, this exists anew. It's brand new. The old city disappears. It's out the window. The brand new city's coming in. That's the only thing that we're concerned about for the moment. So I can get this out entirely. I don't even need to index an array. I just say city. That's this city here. That's this parameter. It's now been assigned. I can treat it like any normal hash. Take out these values, index them, retrieve the URL for the image. And I think I only have one more update. So I take out that 0 as well. City, like that. I know it hasn't changed, but it's working now. Now let's actually try this, right? So we've got one city in our array. Maybe we just set this up for the first time. We plan on adding more cities. I'm going to add London. Uh-oh, where's my internet? Yeah, hang on. So this is responsive. We know it's responsive. We just saw it. Hang on. What's going on? Well, there's London anyway, right? Let's hope this comes back. By default, I always look at the mobile view. This is still, and it probably will be for a while, the most important view to build upon. Okay, and let me show you. It takes things in order, right? Once it's been ordered, it applies that order. So I'm going to have Tokyo behind London. And now instead of seeing Tokyo first, we're going to see London first. Right? Mexico City, put it at the beginning, we can put it at the end. Let's put it at the end. Now we got 3, we can add as many as we want. Right? We've created this, we kept our code dry, first of all. We're not repeating ourselves, we're letting the computer repeat itself. Doing the each over and over and over again. Now here's Mexico City. We could have 1 million of these. And we could also have 0. Doesn't matter. Right? We're expecting an array. There should be an array there, but we can have an empty array. Our code's not going to crash. We're not going to get any error messages. We're just not going to display any cities because there are no cities to display. Let's put it all back. And there we go. Everything's back to normal. So as we keep moving forward in this demonstration, and as you do your Instagram, we're going to wire up the buttons, and we're going to start counting these things, and maybe maybe we'll make a simple graph or something. I'm not really sure. It's kind of just a thing for fun. So any questions? Hopefully I got everything. I don't think I missed anything. But yeah, no, you can return to work.